The Progressive Era didn't offer much progress for African Americans. African Americans were facing an environment of constant racism and prejudice. In the southern states, the environment was quite hostile. The enforcement of many Jim Crow laws were made certain African Americans lived in fear and under threat. Jim Crow laws were made to separate Anglo citizens from African American citizens. African Americans were not to associate with Anglo Americans unless permission was granted. Break these laws, and African Americans risked violent persecution. Lynchings were common during the Progressive Era. Men, and even multitudes of African American women, were targets of this brutal practice. Even in the more accepting northern states, racial prejudice was constant and violent. To top it off, voting rights were rarely granted for African Americans. Their 15th Amendment rights were constantly violated, but nothing was done to ensure their right to vote and be a voice to break the system of segregation. This environment of hostility towards immigrants and racism towards African Americans allowed the Ku Klux Klan to be revived. Once dormant for decades, the Ku Klux Klan, also known as the KKK, were viewed heroically by much of the public thanks to the infamous silent movie Birth of a Nation. The heroes in the movie were former Confederate soldiers becoming part of the KKK to save the good honor of the South. The movie portrayed African American women as conniving, flirtatious, and manipulative yet shallow. Former slaves were portrayed as rapists, lazy, and animalistic, and didn't deserve their freedom. To add even more to this insulting display, the actors portraying African Americans were white actors in blackface, covering their skin with burnt cork, polish, or dark makeup while acting out foolish behavior. The relatively new group, the NAACP, W.B. Du Bois, and Ida B. Wells, fought hard against this movie being released, but to no avail. This movie made $10 million, which is about $300 million in today's money. President Wilson had a private screening of the movie at the White House. African Americans were now targets of Anglo gangs inspired by this movie. Race riots grew, and for the most part, African Americans were on the receiving end of the violence. Very few officials were willing to protect African American communities. Even worse, some took part in their destruction. The Progressive Era was a dangerous time for African Americans.